Hello everyone, thank you for your interest in our work. I'm Kyungjun Lee, and this is joint work with Daisuke Sato, Saki Asakawa, Hernisa Kacorri, and Chieko Asakawa from the University of Maryland, College Park, Carnegie Mellon University, New York University, and IBM Research. Our work explores people's attitude toward assistive wearable cameras that can detect pedestrians for blind people. In this work, we consider two different perspectives: the perspective of blind people who may be the end users of these technologies, and the perspective of sighted bystanders who may be captured by these cameras. Wearable camera hold the promise to increase real-world accessibility for blind people by providing access to their visual surroundings, such as daily products, personal objects, and infrastructure. Perhaps not surprisingly, this wearable technology has been already available for blind people in the market as commercial product, such as Orcam and Ira. More importantly, a wearable camera may also be useful to blind users in social interactions, as it can provide them the information about people near them, such as their approximate distance, relative position, gender, and facial expressions. However, the public use of such a system may raise privacy concerns for bystanders, as the camera can capture them without their consent or knowledge. In 2016, Profita et al. Tried understanding bystanders' social acceptance of an assistive wearable camera. Their experimental result showed that people are more willing to accept a wearable camera if it is used for assistive purposes for blind people. In this prior study, however, participants experienced the technology through a video that focuses on showing how a blind person would be wearing a camera. In other words, participants are not explicitly taught about what kind of visual information the technology may capture and process. Our research work looks at this unexplored area of the relationship between assistive wearable technology and its social acceptance. Focusing on a pedestrian detection scenario, we try to understand the assistive wearable technology from two perspectives: the passerby's perspective and the blind user's perspective. Also, we are interested in how people would be reacting to such technology before and after they learn more about it. In our work, two different studies are employed: an online study with videos that show how blind people could be using such technology, and the in-person study with a working prototype system that blind people can use to detect pedestrians. We first conducted a user study using an online survey platform. We recruited 206 sighted people via Amazon Mechanical Turk, and their age ranged from 19 to 70. These sighted participants were randomly assigned to one of two groups. Two groups respectively watched the videos with two different forms of wearable camera, which are smart glasses and head-mounted GoPro. Online participants first watched the passerby perspective video. This video basically shows how a blind person would be wearing a camera from the passerby's perspective. Letting two groups watch the video showing the two different types of camera, smart glasses versus GoPro, we first try to see if the camera form factor has an effect on their opinions. From their responses, we see that GoPro was significantly more noticeable than smart glasses in terms of camera visibility. Perhaps this is not a surprise, as GoPro is bulkier than smart glasses. But it turns out that people who watched the smart glasses felt significantly more uncomfortable about this assistive technology than people who watched the GoPro. In particular, smart glasses seem to make people feel more uncomfortable in public than the GoPro, regardless whether it is recording or not. One participant who saw the video where the blind user wears smart glasses specifically said, "I simply do not like being photographed or captured on video, especially when I'm not aware of it. Again, I find it acceptable if it helps blind people to see, but it still makes me a little uncomfortable, which highlights that people may feel uncomfortable about this technology despite their acceptance. Almost like anticipating our second stimuli after watching the first video, another online participant who reported feeling uncomfortable about the smart glasses mentioned, "I would like to know which information would be collected." And that's exactly what our study showed them next. Let's first watch the second video. We show them the same scenario, but this time from the blind user perspective, exposing the type of information that the wearable camera captures and notifies the blind user of. After showing the second video, we ask people again about their acceptance, any privacy concerns they have, and whether they feel uncomfortable toward this assistive camera. By keeping the questions identical, we look for a change in their opinions. The results showed that online sighted participants remain positive toward blind people using a wearable camera for pedestrian detection. The figure on the right side shows that their responses did not change much even after they watched the blind user perspective video. However, many participants became more negative toward any people who may not be blind using such technology. Perhaps after learning what the technology can do, participants were more cautious of their privacy or algorithms making inferences on their appearance. Last, participants maintained their levels of comfort with the assistive use of wearable camera even after they watched the blind user perspective video that shows the scenes behind the camera. Now moving on to our second study, where we bring blind and sighted participants to experience those scenarios in person. Here, blind participants are given a working prototype for pedestrian detection with smart glasses that notifies them in near real time of the presence, approximate distance, relative position, gender, age, and head pose of a passerby. Blind participants walk down in the hallway and are given the task to ask a passerby about a nearby office number. On the other hand, sighted participants are simply asked to walk in the hallway coming from the other side without knowing that a blind person with a wearable camera may walk by them. Of course, as per our IRB, sighted participants were aware that they would be recorded. Please note that this walking activity is designed to serve as an in-person alternative to the passerby perspective video in the online study. We recruited 10 blind participants whose age ranged from 49 to 73. 3 participants reported to have light perception, and 4 participants mentioned that they had prior experience with a wearable camera such as IRA. For each blind participant, 4 sighted participants were recruited on site one at a time. So in total, we recruited 40 sighted participants for this in-person experiment. Since we conducted a study on campus, sighted participants' age, which ranged from 19 to 39, tended to be a bit younger than that in the online study. What we also want to see here is whether this in-person experience results in different opinions than the online learning. For this comparison, we use the online data with the smart glasses only, as GoPro was not used for the in-person study. We find that if none of the recordings are saved, then in-person sighted participants are significantly more positive and less uncomfortable toward smart glasses for blind people. Though at this point, they are not yet aware of what kind of information is being captured by the camera. After the walking activity and the questionnaire, sighted participants watched the blind user perspective video. This is the same video as in the online study, which exposes the type of information that the wearable camera captures and notifies the blind user of. Here, sighted participants complete the same questionnaires as before the video. Similar to the online study, we observed that sighted participants in this in-person study also remain overall positive toward blind people using a wearable camera to detect pedestrians. Similarly, many sighted participants became more negative toward other people using such technology. We suspect that after learning what the technology can do, participants were more cautious of their privacy or the system that makes inference on their appearance. Contrary to the online study, we noticed that in-person participants felt more uncomfortable toward this assistive technology once they saw what it's doing behind the scenes. While you can find a more extensive analysis in our paper, let's talk for a second about conflict of interest that may arise between blind users of this technology and sighted bystanders. We asked about blind participants what kind of visual information they find useful, considering all the visual attributes captured by the working prototype and other attributes. We also asked sighted participants about what kind of visual information they would not like to be detected by the assistive camera. We find that in many cases, blind and sighted participants are in agreement. Blind participants find the distance position of nearby people the most important visual information, and sighted participants are okay with this information being captured. Also, blind participants think that age and ethnicity are the least important information, which is good since the sighted participants would not like those to be inferred. These findings are exciting because they provide us with a design space that mitigates conflict between those affected by this technology. And our research team is leveraging these findings to develop novel smart glasses applications for social distancing and managing interactions with pedestrians. Our study also highlights areas where conflict may arise. For example, blind participants would like to know whether someone is looking at them or not, which is related to one's head pose. But here is where sighted participants are not okay with it. Moreover, blind participants thought that accessing others' facial expressions can help with social interactions, but sighted participants would not like this to be detected by an assistive system. Last, coming back to the wearable camera form factor, we see another conflict. One blind participant specifically mentioned, "I wouldn't wear heavier, bulkier smart glasses because it's more likely to draw unwanted attention." However, some sighted participants said the camera should be noticeable and saying, "I'm not looking to be recorded without my knowledge. So it is important that it's discernible that the blind individual is wearing a camera." We believe that this work is critical for navigating social norms and social acceptability of wearable cameras for blind users and highlighting concrete next steps in this direction. We invite you to read our paper for more details and reuse our study design, questionnaires, and stimuli for your future work. Please visit the link shown on the bottom of the slide for more information about our user study. We would like to thank Zijia Ye for her illustrations and our funding agencies, Simiju Corporation and NIDLR, which stands for National Institute on Disability, Independent Living, and Rehabilitation Research. Thank you.